Show, the #1 rated pregame, intermission, and postgame show this side of the Mississippi, south of the Arctic Circle, north of the equator, the home of the 1-1-1 Philadelphia Flyers. A gargantuan 5-2 win at home against the two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Bundy, we saw a heck of a game.
Yep.
We saw some good performances that we'll highlight. And on the Press Row Show during the second intermission, we had a Navy re-enlistment. It was a heck of a night down here at the Xfinity Mobile Arena.
Xfinity Mobile Arena. It was a great night for the Flyers, and they got themselves in a little bit of a hole there. They got the Florida tied the game after the Flyers took a 2-0 lead, but they didn't look back after that. They ended up scoring 3 goals, consecutive goals, taking a 5-2 win here at home. Couturier with a 4-point night.
Yeah.
2 goals, 2 assists. He had himself a really, really good game tonight. A few guys had some good games, but he certainly is at the top of the heap.
We're going to pop up the post-game comments on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. So as comments come in across YouTube, Facebook, and X, by all means, send them over. Intern Andrew's on the board. He will highlight, I guess, some of the best ones. Bundy, there are a bunch of players that I think we can probably shout out in this game. Let's start with the man in net, a guy who got to start the season on the road against these same Panthers, had a really strong start. He gets the home opener in Dan Vladar. Your thoughts on the former Flame turned Flyer, brought in to be the backup to Sam Ersson, but has done pretty darn well in this starting role.
He's been the better goalie thus far this year, even going through back to training camp, which I don't put a whole lot of stock in, but as a goalie, when you're looking for a spark, and you're the head coach, you went with the right guy. He did a good job tonight, made some key saves at key times of the hockey game. Probably want the second one back, where he kind of took a little bit of a fall there as he was sliding crease to crease, or post to post in the crease, rather. But he had a good game, made some really key stops. You can tell Florida is a team that just they played pretty good, but you can tell they're injured. They've got some key injuries, obviously, with Tkachuk, Barkov, and now Kulikov on defense. That takes away a lot from what their team is. But nothing to take away from the Flyers. And this was a great win. All of us thought the Flyers would have a great win here tonight, and they did. Yeah, and they did. And the Flyers came out and really executed well.
I don't know if you saw it or not, but when the Flyers were up 3-2, empty net, right? Bobby Brink nets the fourth goal of the night. Intern Andrew actually picked the Flyers to win 4-2. He was kind of smelling himself over here, getting the 2 points in the standings. I like to imagine that Bobby Brink scored that goal, looked up to the balcony and said, "That one's for you, Intern Andrew." But then what happens, Bundy? They empty the net again. That 5th goal goes in, and Intern Andrew goes from a 2-point game to 1 point like the rest of us. A guy who had a hell of a game, multi-goal effort, a guy who's always under a lot of scrutiny, certainly was under scrutiny with the former head coach, Sean Couturier.
Yeah. He did a great job tonight. I mean, really, really leading this team. To have somebody that they can go to and rely upon in the leadership role. I mean, he was what you want your captain to do, and in a home opener to put up 4 points like that. I thought they were. It was a pretty special night for him. What is this? A Florida broadcast?
Yeah, Ryan Ace's Florida broadcast said the Flyers were lucky to win. Florida dominated from start to finish. Not sure what they watched first and second. Certainly, third Florida was better.
I don't agree with that at all. I thought the Flyers played much better the first 2 periods, and I thought the third period Florida had a good start after they had that 6-on-5. They had a whole bunch of chances where they pulled the goalie and the Flyers couldn't get their it was a delayed penalty, and that's where Florida mustered up a lot of their shots. Flyers were really gassed at that time, but they got out of it, and then Florida scores on that power play afterwards. But to stay with the Flyers, I don't know if the Flyers would have won a game like this last year.
No.
I'm not sure that they would have had the moxie in them. Maybe they would have gotten overtime and something good would have happened, but to come back when they were tied 2-2 after having a 2-0 lead, there's a lot to say about that and the kind of team they are.
I want to jump into your old player brain here for a second, if I may. So when you look at the schedule when it comes out, we talked about this before the season started. It's kind of a murderer's row to start the year for the Flyers. Obviously, there's probably something that goes into with a new head coach. Maybe you want a few cupcakes to start the season, right? Mm-hmm. You want to have a few easy ones, kind of figure things out as a collective, and do it against lower opponents. And it's not to say that the Flyers are some great team, but rather you want to be able to build some confidence early. What they have now is Florida twice, plus Carolina, 2 of those games being on the road. They had a strong first game. You skate away with a loss. Second game, you sort of win in overtime. You get it taken back. You lose in overtime. Right. But there's still some momentum that you probably carry forward. No doubt. And then tonight you go out and you put this together. In your old player brain, what's the preference? Is it to get those cupcake teams to start the year and try to build
Take care. God bless.
Or is it to do something like they've done where they've had success early in the season against teams that everyone expects to be, potentially deep playoff opponents?
Yeah, I think the Flyers have done it. I mean, I think it's good to start against good teams. It gets you off the schneid. You have to recognize immediately that you've got to be ready to play. You can't take nights off against teams like Florida. You can't take a night off against anybody.
Yeah.
But it's certainly you got to be at your best. Not that anyone would ever take a night off. Just when you're not at your best, what is the other team going to give you?
Yeah.
And I think I agree with you. I thought they played pretty well in Florida game 1. I thought they played a much better game in Carolina, deserved a better fate, and then tonight they earned their 2 points. So it was a good win. I mean, really, really solid road win. But I'd rather you got to play them all at some point. You may as well stack them at the beginning of the year before anything else.
You brought up the idea of could the team last year have done this? The team last year did, if you remember, I think it was a game against the Stars. They put out a really good effort. They had a few games last year where they kind of overachieved, especially relative to where they were throughout the season, where they were a bottom-feeding team. I don't know. You kind of wonder about, the new coach bump, although you usually think of that more as, an in-season kind of changeover, right? You get rid of a guy that maybe had lost the locker room in torts, and he gets replaced, and there's a little bit of a new coach bump there. I don't know if that carries into a new season. Do you think it carries through the same way?
No, I think things change when you get a new coach because he's implementing a new system and there's a new format going on. Everybody's got to buy into what he's trying to teach. So, No, I don't think there's is there a carryover? I mean, there's guys that had good seasons and good finishes to the season last year. Bobby Brink and Noah Catesby too. They look like they've carried into this year.
Yeah.
But I always believe a new season's a new season.
Trevor Zegras, people were asking for a big play. He had one late in this game to get the feed that goes to what ultimately ends up being the game-winning goal. Jett Luchanko in this game, did he show you enough to, I guess, warrant further playing time? We talked about it during, I think it was the first intermission show, about Luchanko, what the best way the Flyers could go about playing him versus sending him down to Guelph, keeping him around here. You and Ant seem to be of the thought that better chance than not that he ends up staying with the team for at least a good long while before they send him down. He has the 9 games to play. They could stretch that out. Did he show you much in this game?
He's playing on the 4th line, so it's really hard. He made a couple of little good plays, but in terms of noticing him for the bulk of the game, I didn't. I'm not gonna lie. This game was played really with 3 lines in terms of getting the offense going. He's probably got to define a role, but is he just too young? Is he in between right now? And that's what they're trying to figure out what to do. Can they get a trade somewhere from Guelph to get him to a better junior team? I don't know, but the way I see it going right now is if they don't want him playing for Guelph because they have such a poor team, then he's probably going to have to stay here. And he can't go to the American League. He's probably going to have to stay here and develop at the speed that they want him to develop at.
It's a shame because if this were next year, I guess it was also like league contingent.
Why couldn't they just do it right away? Why did they have to wait a year to be able to send one of your first rounders to the minors?
Wasn't it his league? His junior league is the one that's not accepting it this year.
Oh, is that right? I think
that was the CBA thing that Ant was talking about a few weeks ago. Regardless, it is a shame because next year, if this were the case, he's 19, they would be able to send him as the one exception down to the A. He's the perfect example of a player who's in this weird purgatory, right? He's not going to really improve by going down to Guelph.
No,
he's not. He's not an impact enough player at the NHL level to warrant consistent playing time. We talked about this, I think, during first intermission as well. It's that toss-up of is it better for him to go back to junior play every night, but the development probably won't be there, or stay here. Maybe you're not in the lineup every night, but you're practicing with these players. You're practicing under the tutelage and under the direction of this coaching staff. Maybe that ultimately is better for your development. It's a tricky place. The A would be the perfect place for Jett Luchanko, but it's not an option.
No, it's not an option. He'd play a ton of minutes down there, and he could do whatever he wanted in terms of his development, for a year down there. But that's not the case. So, yeah, I mean, see you, Mike. Good seeing you, bud.
There he goes.
Our famous organ player, Mike. Great guy.
Plays a great organ.
He sure does.
I was talking to him about it pregame, by the way. I was saying, hey, when you play your organ, I was asking him about it because, he's a skilled guy. We actually had a conversation about if he has the ability to hook up a keyboard to the computer, which he does.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, maybe on a press road show, or maybe on a Snow the Goalie that we do remotely. Maybe we bring Mike the organist on for a little intermission music during the show.
That would be nice.
I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Mike could do our intro for Andrew's trivia.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
There you go.
Okay, so we talked about those guys. Emil Andre. This really was in a big way kind of a show me game. A guy who was sent down at the end of camp for a myriad of reasons. He gets the opportunity in the lineup tonight. Seemed like he connects the zones pretty well. What did you see from Emil Andre?
I thought he played a good game. I thought I don't think he did anything crazy. I thought he made simple plays when he had to, defended when he had to. He's going to need to. They needed that puck mover in his depth pairs in defense.
Yeah,
and he is what they have that can provide it better than anybody else, short of a trade.
It's interesting because we talked pregame about how Igor Zamula's agent kind of threw out the idea that Zamula hasn't been given the opportunity to this point to show what he can do. He's been kind of boxed in, but he could be a good power play player. We kind of dispelled some of that notion pregame, but Zamula's a bigger guy. They seem to have this, not obsession with the idea, but this long-held belief you needed a certain amount of size on the blue line to be a contending team. They're not a contending team. They might actually be a better team than people are giving them credit for. I actually do think they could be a playoff team.
The Flyers?
Yeah, I think that,
why not?
I think they could be. And I'm about as critical as it gets when it comes to this team. I think they actually do have enough to be a bubble playoff team. If you're not as concerned with the traditional hockey sense of you need a certain amount of size to compete for a cup, if you're willing to say, all right, not a cup contender, we just want to put the best players on ice. Is that the best case to keep Emil Andre here? Like if he gets back in the lineup again, does exactly what he did tonight, you say, all right, you're still small on the blue line, but it doesn't matter as much right now. You're not going into like a playoff stretch. Like
it does not matter right now, the size. They'll deal with kick that can down the road if they have to, when they have to. But right now it's about getting a guy who can move the puck out of the zone reliably and get the forwards the puck so they can go on the offense. And size has nothing to do with it right now. If they have to worry about that down the road, we'll deal with it then. But right now it's about having someone come in there and solidify the depth position while they have some of these guys out with injuries.
Now I want to go kind of down the checklist of the remaining players who were part of storylines coming into this one. So the blue line, we're pretty set there. I don't think there was anybody else on defense that stood out for better or worse, right? It was really about Emil Andre tonight.
Sanheim had a good game again.
He
played really well again. But Andre, it was the one who the eyes were all on tonight. Everybody.
The other two guys that I guess I would think of, Grabenkin continues to kind of settle into a role. I said he's kind of like he's sort of a gremlin in a way, just kind of like scratching, clawing on the boards, like that. Good energy. Not the most skilled guy in the world, at least in terms of putting the biscuit in the basket, but he seems to be a pain in the ass to play against, which I think is probably a good thing for a bottom six forward.
Keeps his feet moving in the offensive zone when he has the puck, like he'd be a real thorn in the side on the boards. And I'm looking to see him get better. We don't have a big book on him because he came over in a trade. He's only played a couple games, but I'd like to see more of him because I like what I've seen so far.
He extends plays.
He does.
There are those moments where you are in a battle along the boards, and in the past you have some guys on this team who maybe haven't been willing to get down and dirty, right? Haven't been willing to kind of throw everything into it, and he is doing exactly what they expect of him. So I think Grabenkin, high marks.
Yeah, I like him. I think he's got a real good future here in Philly.
Which leads us to the biggest topic coming into the game, and that was Matvei Michkov.
Yeah.
And Michkov through 2 games, kind of underwhelming. Spittin' Chicklets puts out this idea that he came into camp out of shape. Tocchet came out today and said there was an ankle injury that prevented him from doing some of his typical training going into the season. He says he's fully healthy now. They just have to work. They have to work through it now. What did you see out of Matvei Michkov tonight against the Panthers?
I don't think he had a great game again. I mean, calling what I see, and I don't think he was spectacular at all. I think he had a couple plays in the power play that were good, but 5-on-5 right now, he needs to get his feet moving much more than he has. And if he's had an injury in the offseason that was not told or mentioned to the team at a certain time or whatever, that can definitely set your workout back. There's no doubt about that. If you're injured and you can't train, so I'll give him some slack on that. But he needs to be better. He's came in as a heralded player for this year. He had a great rookie season, and there's only room for him to improve. And he needs to find that gear in him and then buy into what Rick's teaching.
How much of the struggles that he's had to this point, I mean, it is 2 games against the Panthers. How much of it do you think is matchup based?
Yeah,
Style,
I mean,
style. Could it really just be that the Panthers kind of stylistically can neutralize him a little bit better?
Well, both Carolina and Florida are not perfect games for him to match up because they're strong forecheck teams or strong puck possession teams. They really don't give you a lot of time and space.
Yeah,
and he needs more time and space to operate in those small. And I call him a small space operator. He's not a fleet of feet. Like he's not going to burn rubber on you and take off on you. But when he has plays and he's creative and he's on his game, he's making really those small space plays that we were accustomed to seeing last year. We haven't seen that yet this year.
Hopefully they'll be able to unlock it. You have to imagine that
it'll take time.
And if
it could be next game.
And if you're trying to give the benefit of the doubt here on the conditioning or whatever it is that Tocchet was kind of talking about today, you figure if he was behind, you go like what, a week, 2 weeks of conditioning?
Probably,
and maybe beyond that is where you start to get a little bit concerned. Maybe.
Yeah.
I
don't think it's a problem right now. I think they just have to let him play his way out of it.
I know this is probably surprising, but social media blew up over the last few days about him looking slow. I know this is hard to believe that people would get a little bit irrational.
But he's not fast.
He's not anyway.
He's not.
Yeah, even when he's
not a great skater. I mean, he moves well. He pirouettes well. Like when he gets a puck in the zone and he's finding space for himself, that's when he's at his best. But he's not a worm burner. He's not that kind of player.